Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Horror Week. I'm Lady Shasha, Mistress of the Snark, Connoisseur of the Gore, and your hostess with the mostest. Please let me know if the sound is okay. I am using different headphones today, and I'm hearing a little bit of like a background noise, but I'm not sure if you guys can hear that background noise. So let me know if you can hear that. For today's show, we will be doing horror best ofs as well as sci-fi best ofs of movies and TV. According to Fangoria, Variety Medium, and Creepy Catalog. We'll also be taking a look at the trailer for They Will Kill You. But before we do that, we do have a little bit of Stranger Things news to announce. Let me check out who is in the chat. Doc Kaiju is here first. He says, "Good evening." He also says, "Heads up that you still have the banner up saying you're not going to compete with Stranger Things." Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I'll have to take that pinned message down. Um, and yeah, pinned message. Jake is in the house. He says, "I thought that was last week." Yeah, that was. How do I take pinned comment down though? I'm not seeing it on the back end. It's not displaying to me here. So I will have to maybe address it later because I can't see it on my end to even remove it. But let's get right into things. First up, we do have a few announcements just to let you guys know what is going on in case you missed it. I think now is a great time to revisit. I did a breakdown of, let me take that down and put this up, 28 years later. And I think right now is a great time to revisit that video before 28 years later Bone Temple comes out, which is directed by Nia DaCosta. But I definitely have a video over, I think I did over 20 minutes talking about 28 years later. So definitely check that out. That's also in the post, the pinned post on the community page. Also, in case you missed it, Tony Man and I discussed how Mikey and Adopted are the same movie. We also talked a little bit about what happened to Ray J and his Scooty bikes. And also, why is he not in Tubi movies? I mean, I feel like he should be in Tubi movies just like Marquise Houston is in Tubi movies. And coming up tomorrow, on what we watched last weekend, Tony Man and I will be talking about Monkey Shines and Shakma, and also talking about Primate. It will be a later show because we're going to see Primate tomorrow evening. So we won't go live until after 10 o'clock. And again, that's Monkey Shines, Shakma, and Primate. But let's get into the nuts and bolts of the stories today. Starting with this piece about Stranger Things. Let me bring that up here. There we go. This is coming courtesy of Digital Spy, written by Harriet Mitchell. And the headline reads, Stranger Things announces one last adventure coming to Netflix next week. Get ready for a sweeping behind the scenes chronicle. Just days after the sci-fi show came to an epic conclusion, Netflix has announced one last adventure for Stranger Things, titled One Last Adventure: The Making of Stranger Things 5, and set to premiere on the streaming service next week. The new documentary will give fans of the show an inside look into its fifth and final ever series. I was a little bit interested in this because of the look of Vecna this time around. Last season, Vecna was very much guy in a rubber suit, which I enjoyed as a person growing up on 80s horror. I love practical effects. However, this season Vecna looks a little bit more digital, or yeah, I guess I would say that's CGI-ish. I don't know whether what they did was have the guy in a rubber suit and then overlaid some CGI elements, or whether they fully did CGI with Vecna. So it would be interesting to see the behind the scenes on that, because this one was very special effects heavy. Premiering globally on Netflix on the 12th of January, the documentary promises to go behind the scenes to take a look at the years of effort and craft that went into the final installment of the Duffer Brothers generation-defining series. Coming a decade after we were first introduced to Hawkins, Indiana, the 2-hour finale episode of Stranger Things aired on Netflix on New Year's Eve, breaking hearts around the world to the tune of Prince's Purple Rain. I thought that was a very interesting music drop. Let me adjust the mic because I really don't want it to pick up. I think the fan is on my computer, and hopefully it's not picking that up too much. I can hear it in my headphones, so I'm not sure whether the mic is picking that up. So let's just make this adjustment here. There we go. Hopefully the sound is okay. I'm going to probably have a different setup next week. So we'll see how that works out. The new documentary follows the cast, creators, and crew as they work towards bringing the final ever season to life, saying goodbye to the show that changed their lives forever. And we do have a behind-the-scenes picture here with Millie Bobby Brown and probably one of the Duffer Brothers directing. Or it could be a different director, because the Duffer Brothers weren't the only ones that directed this season. There were a few other directors. In a statement, Martina Radwan, who directed the sweeping behind-the-scenes chronicle, thanked showrunners, the Duffer Brothers, for trusting me with a front-row seat to this incredible journey. Excuse me. She continued, spending a full year on set with them was a true privilege and an absolute thrill. Being able to get close and watching them bring this beloved show to life in real time was pure joy. I only wish I could travel back in time and document seasons 1 through 4. Sharing their own statement, the Duffer Brothers said they took inspiration from watching behind-the-scenes documentaries for Lord of the Rings trilogy, calling them on-the-ground films that showed the real nuts and bolts of how a massive production actually gets made. Do you guys remember some of this behind-the-scenes footage that we used to get back in the day of not necessarily of the original Star Wars? I think there was more behind-the-scenes footage shot for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but I remember seeing those as a kid and being very fascinated by that. Okay, we have a picture of Sadie Sink here on set. Their statement continued, quote, "We saw how stressed Peter Jackson was and thought, yep, that's the dream. With the decline of physical media, that kind of behind-the-scenes storytelling has largely disappeared." I agree. With DVDs, one of the best things about DVDs were the DVD extras. And now that we're streaming a lot of content more so than buying DVDs, those extras are not readily available. So I do agree with them on that. Quote, "We wanted to bring it back. One Less Adventure, the making of Stranger Things Season 5, beautifully captured and directed by Martina Radwan, is our attempt to do just that. If you love Stranger Things, or if you're simply curious how a major Hollywood production comes to life, this one's for you." One Last Adventure, the making of Stranger Things 5 premieres globally on Netflix on the 12th of January. The new edition of Living Legends celebrating... Oh, wait, that is an ad. There was like no delineation between where the... I'll show you guys on the screen. See, I started reading this. One Last Adventure, the making of Stranger Things 5 premieres globally on Netflix on January 12th. And then in the same font and everything is the ad here. The new edition of Living Legends celebrating music icon Dolly Parton. See how I didn't know where the end of the article was because it kind of looks like the same thing. But shout out to Harriet Mitchell, who wrote this article for digitalspy.com. I think that would be pretty interesting. It didn't give a runtime. I wonder how long the documentary will be for Stranger Things. All right, so let's go into our next story here. We're going to start with some sci-fi stuff because I know I've been slacking on the sci-fi. Let me jump over to the comments to see what's going on before we jump over to there. Darth Revenant says, "Hello, everyone. Lady Shasha must be stopped. Thank you." Jake says it sounds fine. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Darth says, "They will kill you trailer is hilarious." Tony Man says, "Hey, y'all." And also, "I'm here. Good evening, chat and the beautiful Lady Shasha. Thank you very much." Chaz Flick says, "Hey, Shasha, how was your new year?" It was all right. I got to rest a little bit. Jake and Chaz says, "Hey, Tony, yo, Tony." And he says, "Sup, fellas, Dell on Movies is here." He says, "What's up?" what's up to you too. Let's get into our next story, which I will also ask you guys for your opinion, because I'm not, as I read these best of and worst of, it's all subjective. Every person has their own best of and worst of, and I don't think you should let any of these articles sway you from what you love. They're just one person's opinion, or maybe some of these articles might be written by a team. They're just one person's opinion. No, nothing to get vexed over. So let's see. Let's get into this IGN article, and it's the best sci-fi or fantasy movie of 2025. And this is written by Jim Vejvoda. And there's a subheader: aliens, androids, monsters, and Mickeys. And so I'll scroll up so we have a little bit of an image here. That is just an advertisement. They didn't really put a header image for the article, so I'll just start where we're at here. While there are many titles to choose from, just look at honorable mentions. These are IGN staff's picks for the year's very best in our combined sci-fi fantasy movie category. So this is a group effort for the staff of IGN, what they discussed. So they start off saying the Predator franchise. I'm just going to scroll here so you guys can read along with me. I don't mind here. The Predator franchise returned in a big way this year thanks to director Dan Trachtenberg, whose 2 Predator movies both made our top 5. We count, see how it jumps up on me? There we go. We count Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein as sci-fi because, well, Mary Shelley's book is one of the very first science fiction novels ever produced. I'm sorry, published. My mind said produced instead of published. The word published is right there on the screen. You ever do that when you read something, your mind just replaces words with other words that you think work better, whether they do or not? My mind does that. I don't know if it's an ADHD thing or it's just a thing some people do. While Predator movies and Del Toro's Netflix epic may have had greater visibility, we didn't want to overlook quirkier fare like Companion or Mikey 17. Or is it Mickey 17? I don't know if it's Mickey or Mikey. When selecting our nominees for the year's best offerings in the sci-fi and fantasy genres, honorable mentions go to Superman, Begonia, 28 Years Later, How to Train Your Dragon, K-Pop Demon Hunters, Elio, The Fantastic Four: First Steps, The Legend of Ochi, Arco, Obex, and Thunderbolts. Editors note Avatar: Fire and Ash did not screen for enough staff in time for IGN Awards consideration. One thing I wish they would have separated, I wish they kind of would have done one for sci-fi and a separate one for fantasy, because I almost feel like putting things like Superman up against How to Train Your Dragon and Fantastic Four. I feel like these are different categories or different subcategories. So I kind of feel like I would put How to Train Your Dragon, K-Pop Demon Hunters. I'm not sure of the subject matter for Legend of Ochi, but Avatar: Fire and Ash, those would go in a separate category for me from something like Begonia and 28 Years Later, if that makes any sense. But let's continue. Now it is asking, what is your pick for best sci-fi or fantasy movie of 2025? And they have here Companion, Mickey 17, Frankenstein, Predator Badlands, Predator Killer of Killers, or something else. What do you guys think in the comments? I'm going to repeat them. What is your pick for best sci-fi or fantasy movie of 2025? Companion, Mickey 17, Frankenstein, Predator Badlands, Predator Killer of Killers, or something else? For me, I think my favorite, although I have not seen Mickey 17, so take a grain of salt. I did see Companion. I saw Frankenstein. I saw Predator Badlands, and I saw Predator Killer of Killers. Of those, my favorite would be Frankenstein. So maybe that is an answer. And so far, 6.1% said Companion, 9.7% said Mickey 17, 31.7% said Frankenstein, 32%, 32.7% said Predator Badlands, and 11.3% said Predator Killer of Killers, and 4% said something else. I'd love to see what you guys say in the comments. That when I say comments, I'm speaking to the chat, and I'm also speaking to the people who are watching this on a replay. What was your favorite science fiction movie of 2025? Let me know in the comments. Is there anything else to this? Okay, they're talking about their runners-up, so let's see what they have to say about runner-up Predator Badlands. It says here, Prey director Dan Trachtenberg returned to the Predator franchise twice this year. First, with animated anthology film Predator Killer of Killers, more on that below, and again with Predator Badlands, the first entry in the nearly 40-year-old franchise to make the titular alien its main protagonist instead of the villain, which I was surprised how well that worked. I did not think it was going to work, but it ended up working out really, really well. But in my opinion, I did like Predator Killer of Killers better than Predator Badlands. I don't know how you guys felt it. Of you that have seen both Predator Badlands and Predator Killer of Killers, which one did you like better? Or did you think they were about even? Let me know. Let's see here. The simplistic yet surprisingly emotional Predator Badlands followed a similar rite of passage story as Prey did, this time following a young Yautja named Dek, played by Demetrius Schuster Kolo Amatangi, who seeks to prove himself on a planet where even the trees are deadly. Badlands is a fun, action-packed romp that also further developed the culture of the Yautja and even offered a healthy dose of humor thanks to teaming a predator with an alien franchise synthetic named Thea, played by Elle Fanning. The next runner-up that they mentioned is Companion. Drew Hancock's directorial debut is a sci-fi thriller that offers a mix of humor and bursts of violence to tell the story of a woman who discovers she's a robot companion caught up in a larger scheme. Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid are both great as Iris and her owner/boyfriend Josh, with both actors nicely subverting any audience expectations based on their personas from past projects such as Yellow Jackets or The Boys, respectively. I kind of disagree because, well, only with Jack Quaid. I kind of don't like Jack Quaid. I mean, I know he's a Nepo baby and it's probably why he gets so much work. I just don't get the appeal. He is like paint drying to me, but that's just my opinion. I'm sure he's a lovely person. He's just not one of my favored actors, I would say. Let's continue. This clever and occasionally vicious film ratchets up the anticipation as Iris endures one stunning revelation after another. I will say a standout, although they had a smaller role in Companion, is I forget the young gentleman's name that plays he plays Guillermo on What We Do in the Shadows. He's also in Companion, and I really liked him in that. He brought a lot of the comedic elements. I really enjoyed him. Our next runner-up is Predator Killer of Killers. Directed by Prey and Predator Badlands filmmaker Dan Trachtenberg, this Hulu release is the first entry in the franchise to be animated, but that doesn't mean it pulled back on the graphic bloodshed the series is known for. It's also the franchise's first anthology film, telling 4 different stories of Yautja hunting humans, specifically Vikings, samurai, World War II fighter pilots, and then one other tale which we won't spoil here. Like I said earlier, I enjoyed this a little bit better than Predator Badlands. Its journey through several time periods is the perfect way to give us multiple Predator stories that each have their own distinct flavor and action highlights, Eric Goldman said in his Predator Killer of Killers review for IGN, praising Trachtenberg for, quote, understanding how to provide both predators and human characters who can kick ass and creatively prove their mettle no matter which side of the hunt they begin on. All right, runner up, Mikey 17. This is the one on their list that I had not seen yet. And they go on to say Bong Joon-ho followed up his Oh, see, I didn't know it was directed by Bong Joon-ho. I would have put that on my watch list a lot lower down if I'd known that, because I wanna say, he also did, oh, what's the movie with the train? It's a it oh, somebody told me in the comments the movie with the train that is a metaphor for, capitalism and also, like a economic hierarchy. Oh gosh, I can't recall. And then there was another one, with the monster that was in the water, and then it came and it was chasing everybody around, Seoul. Why can I not remember the names of his movies? It's really bugging me. Somebody in the comments help me out. But let me go back to reading this here. Bong Joon-ho followed up his IGN Best Movie of 2019 winner. Oh, he also did Parasite, of course, which was one of my favorite movies of 2019. I watched it like 3 times. Um, yeah, an Oscar winner too, with what our critic Siddhant Adlakha called a jet black, mean as hell sci-fi comedy about a near future in which life itself has been corporatized and reduced in value by a foppish upper class that hides its totalitarian aims behind supposed religious values. Robert Pattinson plays multiple incarnations of an expendable worker who is repeatedly killed and recloned in order to perform dangerous jobs for an all powerful corporation. Mikey 17 and 18 are a pair of oddball sad sacks, and yet they still improbably become the resistance to Mark Ruffalo's Trump coded leader in this nihilistic, politically charged film that can often be, to paraphrase Adlaka's Mikey 17 review, as depressing as it is farcical. That reminds me of another movie that's on my watch list I really want to see, but it's not streaming anywhere in the US just yet. And it's called, I think it's called No Other Way. It's also a Korean thriller or possibly drama, but it's called No Other Way. And that's high on my watch list. I can't wait until it becomes available streaming. But I definitely have to watch Mikey 17. But their winner was also my winner, Frankenstein. Amazing. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you how much I slept on Frankenstein. I slept on that movie for 2 months. I should have been watched it back when it first dropped, and it was so good. Had an ADHD moment there. I got distracted by the gleamings on my bracelets. So I had to stop and play with them for a minute. But yeah, Frankenstein. Oh my gosh. I loved everything about Frankenstein. It was done so, so well. And I wish that I could have seen it in a movie theater because I mean, well, it's Guillermo del Toro. He usually puts his foot in stuff. Like he is so, I mean, as much accolades as people give him, he deserves more. But yeah, he made Frankenstein kind of scary again, which I really enjoyed. But he also made Frankenstein sympathetic, which if you watch the original 1930s Frankenstein movie, that movie had moments where Frankenstein's monster. He made Frankenstein's monster scary and also sympathetic at the same time, much like the 1930s movies made him scary and at times sympathetic. I really enjoyed that. Thank you, Dell. Those are the movies I was talking about. I described them, but I couldn't remember the name of Host was the movie I was talking about. Yeah, and Tony Man said also Host was the movie I was talking about with the creature in the water. It's like a kaiju film. And Snowpiercer is the train movie I was talking about, but I could not remember the title for anything. Yes, Snowpiercer, also an amazing movie. But yeah, Parasite, like Bong Joon-ho does not miss. Like, dude is amazing. But I digress. Let me read this, what IGN is saying about Frankenstein. They're saying Guillermo del Toro finally realized one of his lifelong dream projects with his sumptuously crafted adaptation of Mary Shelley's pioneering sci-fi novel. As epic as this film is across the board, del Toro's Frankenstein is, at its core, an intimate, thoughtful story about generational trauma and forgiveness. I also want to mention that del Toro did a great job with what I call his version of The Creature from the Black Lagoon. That was a beautiful film, and I want them to give him the Wolfman. Oh my god, I would love to see a Del Toro version of the Wolfman. And Nosferatu too, because I feel like this Frankenstein movie is everything that people thought that Nosferatu was last year. I thought Nosferatu was a little bit um overrated. The best thing about it was um the set design, the costumes, and the practical effects makeup. It's a Nosferatu awesome looking, but it was a little, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I just felt it was overrated. I didn't love it. I was pretty bored. And that's crazy because the 1920s version of Nosferatu is way better. Still to this day holds up better than the new Nosferatu, but that's just my opinion. Your mileage may vary. I think this Frankenstein, everything that they said about Nosferatu applies to this Frankenstein. But I digress. Let's get back into this. While Oscar Isaac and Mia Goth both shine in their leading roles, it's Jacob Elordi's career-defining performance as the creature that stands out the most, giving the film a heart, soul, and elegance missing from so many past Frankenstein films. This iteration of Frankenstein is, like its creature, a beautiful, haunting thing through which classic themes are made to feel fresh and new, IGN Scott Kolura observed in his Frankenstein review, which I agree. Jacob Elordi did an amazing job playing Frankenstein. I think if it was not a science fiction or sci-fi horror film, dude would have been nominated for Oscars. I absolutely believe that. And the same thing with Oscar Isaac. He absolutely would have been nominated. Mia Goth probably would have been nominated for Best Supporting Actress, but you know how Oscars feels about science fiction and horror movies. They also say with Frankenstein, Guillermo del Toro has made a movie that stands reanimated head and mismatched shoulders above the rest in this year's Best Sci-Fi Fantasy category. Let's see here. Tony Man said The Last Voyage of the Demeter was better than Nosferatu. Ah, Delon Movie says Nosferatu had pacing issues and seemed to keep the viewer at arm's length. I agree. I agree with both of these assessments. All right, let's roll into our next article. This is also a best of, but these are of horror movie moments. Tony Man says at his job, I just dropped a whole box of 8-track tapes and none of them broke. Cool, cool, cool. I remember my uncle used to have the 8-track tape of the two movie soundtracks he had. He had Car Wash and he had Thank God It's Friday. There we go. This is from What Culture, written by James Egan, and this is the top 10 best horror movie moments of 2025. Viewers are never getting that scene from Bring Her Back out of their heads. So obviously there's going to be spoilers in this section for whatever horror movies they talk about. So grain of salt with that. 2025 marked a thrilling high point for horror, proving that fear continues to evolve in bold and imaginative ways. This year saw the release of 2 Predator installments, the long-awaited return of the Final Destination franchise, and acclaimed originals like Sinners and Weapons dominating the box office. Though movies like these can be praised for their cinematography, performances, and production design, there's usually one particular scene that steals the show. Even if the rest of the film is top-notch, a perfect jump scare or grotesque creature reveal can overshadow everything else, and these moments can stick with the audience because they tap into primal fears, exploiting our instinctive reactions to danger, death, and the unknown. Of course, the most defining moments in horror aren't always scary. Certain scenes may be memorable because they were beautifully shot or had a satisfying payoff. And when it comes to a horrifying comedy, the best part could be a hilarious exchange or watching an infuriating character kick the bucket. Whatever the reason, the following 10 horror sequences have been embedded in viewers' minds and are sure to live rent-free for quite some time. Stacy from Acres of Movie says, "Hello and thanks from Stacy. Will you see They Will Kill You in cinemas? I'm not sure. I will be reacting to the trailer at the end of this show tonight." Um, Stacy also says, "Make a horror version of Friends. Who would be the slasher?" Stacy, I have to stay on topic because I do have a time frame I've got to keep, because I do have to leave around 8:45. So I'm gonna have to like truncate this. But let's get into this article here. And the first horror moment that they want to mention is the hive in The Monkey. Osgood Perkins' black comedy The Monkey centers around twins Hal and Bill, who find their lives changed forever after inheriting a cursed monkey toy. Every time the wind up toy completes a drum solo, somebody nearby or associated with the brothers dies horrifically. The constant bloodshed triggers a rift between the siblings, compelling them to use the sinister simian against each other. The deaths can be seen coming a mile away, but they still exceed expectations due to how over the top and goofy they are. For example, when a thug called Ricky holds Hal at gunpoint in his car, the camera fixates on the wasp hive in front of them. Nearby, Hal's son winds the monkey, unsubtly teasing that Ricky is about to take a dirt nap. It's obvious that's about to happen. I'm sorry, it's obvious what's about to happen, but viewers will be on edge nonetheless, wondering how the buzzy critters are going to infiltrate the car. But when Ricky shoots at the windscreen, it's crystal clear where the scene is going. Sure enough, the wasps torpedo through the small opening and enter Ricky's throat, causing him to choke to death on thousands of stingers. Sure, Ricky deserved to get his comeuppance, but that was a brutal way to go. Now, having seen The Monkey, I would actually say the pool scene was a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? Memorable to me. And the pool scene, like a girl went to dive into a pool that was being electrified by I think it was like a power line or something. And when she hits the water, she just explodes. And I thought that was a great scene. All right, the next one, number 9, is Becoming One Together. And together, wannabe musician Tim consumes a strange liquid while in a cave, causing him to become uncontrollably drawn towards his girlfriend Millie. When Tim explains to Millie that he believes his body is attempting to merge with hers, she dismisses him before ordering him to sleep in another room. In the next shot, a sleeping Tom can be seen being dragged across the hallway while asleep. At first, the only rational explanation is that Millie is pulling him, but as Tim wakes up, he sees his body is dragging itself towards Millie's room against his will. Not only is this a cool reveal, it also establishes how powerful this unexplained urge is. Tim tries to fight it, but this makes his bones writhe and snap, causing immeasurable agony. As the door before Tim opens, he sees Millie plodding towards him face first, while her body is contorted backwards. Despite their best efforts to control themselves, the pair's arms mesh together, resulting in the bones in their hands to crunch and pop. Although the scene boasts phenomenal visuals and is shot flawlessly, it's the actor's desperation that makes it truly horrifying. Dave Franco and Alison Brie are masterful at portraying confusion and palpable fear during the sequence, amplifying the tension exponentially. This is another movie that I've seen together, and this was not the most standout scene for me in this movie. The effects were great. I thought everything looked great, but there's one scene that made me almost lose sleep at night, and that is the Rat King scene. That's when James, not James Franco, it's Dave Franco. Dave Franco's character removes a light fixture, and there's like a cluster of rats that are all tangled together by their tails, and something about that was so disgusting and disturbing to me. I didn't know what a rat king was until they said that, and that's a real thing, that rats sometimes get tangled up with their tails and then they die because they pull and they get more tangled up and they end up starving to death. But that sequence, oh, it freaked me out so much. I hated it. Oh my god, I hated it. It was so gross. And it stayed with me for days. I don't ever want to see something like that on screen again. The next scene that they are describing as the trash compactor scene from Final Destination Bloodlines. They keep picking scenes that are like the least, in my opinion, what culture is picking scenes that are the least impactful to me from these movies? Because if I'm gonna, I'm no one rather than me even read the descriptions, I'm just gonna name them and I'm just gonna talk about them off the cuff because whatever. The trash compactor scene, yeah, interesting scene. It does come a little bit as a surprise, but it in Final Destination Bloodlines, the opening scene to me is the best scene in that movie. As far as well, I take that back. Second best. The opening sequence with the not Space Needle building, that absolutely. But the scene for me that was a best moment was the MRI machine scene. How do you choose the trash compactor over the MRI scene? That MRI scene, dude got folded in half. Like that was a great scene. So I definitely, if I would pick a scene from Final Destinations, it wouldn't be the trash compactor. Let's see what else they have next on here. Because I'm gonna make this a little bit faster for us. Well, as fast as my computer can go. The candle scene in Companion. Yeah, I would probably agree with this one because that's the only scene I can remember. Where she, and it's the scene they showed in the trailer when she's got her hand, she's forced to have her hand held over a candle. Yeah, so I wouldn't put it higher on the list than, well, maybe these are not like in a certain order. They're just saying these in general. Yeah, as Tony Man says, lest we forget that the MRI scene happened to come true. Yes, it happened with a gentleman that went in the MRI room with a gold chain. Goodbye Toes, the ugly stepsister. That one was intense, but for me, the scene in the ugly stepsister that made me squirm the most was the eyelash scene. And the I would say the nose job scene was pretty difficult to watch too, but the eyelash scene I was literally squirming. Oh, also the tapeworm. Oh my god, the tapeworm, um, that was pretty gross. But yeah, definitely the eyelash scene made me squirm. But oh, fun fact in case you weren't here when I talked about the ugly stepsister on this channel. That part with her chopping her toes off, that comes from the original story of Cinderella. One of the quote ugly stepsisters did chop her toes off so that her foot would fit in the crystal slipper. So you know, things that get left out of the original fables. All right, let's see what movie did they have next on their list. Come on, computer, you can do it. It's Alive, Frankenstein. They didn't really have in this version of Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein never says it's alive like that. Like not the way he did in the 1930s. Let me see what they're describing here as the It's Alive scene. Bringing the creature to life in 1931's Frankenstein isn't just one of the most memorable moments in the film, but among the most iconic scenes in cinema history. Period. I have to agree with that. It's the It's Alive part. It is an iconic scene. For this reason, expectations were high about how Guillermo del Toro would convey this sequence in his Frankenstein. The setup for the creature's resurrection is suitably bombastic, with Victor frantically running around Gothic architecture and electric cylinders while a storm brews outside. Despite being built up for 7 minutes, the revival machine malfunctions, prompting a sullen Victor to retreat to his bedchambers. But when Victor awakens in the morning, he's greeted by his 8 foot tall monster, curiously but timidly admiring his creator. Yeah, that was a great scene. And again, shout out to Jacob Elordi for this performance. This performance, I feel like they're not. It's going to take years before people recognize how amazing this Frankenstein performance was, in my opinion. All right, what's next? Oh, this right here. I have to agree. To bring her back, this scene where the I'm gonna call it a demon child, it starts biting down. The what's crazy is the teenage boy hands him a piece of fruit on this knife, which is crazy enough. Why would you do that? Just take the fruit off the knife and hand it to him. He eats the fruit off the knife, but then continues to try to eat the knife and starts it's a difficult scene to watch. It's very, very difficult to watch. Yeah, so I would definitely agree this is one of the best moments of the year. Let's see what else they got. Showdown, Predator Killer of Killers. Again, this is a spoiler, of course. This in the wraparound story for Predator Killer of Killers, you see that the Yautja has uh collected all of these warriors that have won against the predators, and at the very end they're brought to like a coliseum and they must fight against each other. And I thought that it was pretty cool because you have a samurai and you have a Viking and you have a World War II fighter pilot having to face off against each other, but in the end they decide to work together despite their not being able to speak the same language to fight against the Yautja. And it is a great scene. It is a great scene. Like I said, the whole movie for me, Predator Killers, was pretty good. BC says, Lady Shasha, what's going on with your computer? I think the number one thing with my computer is that it's from 2017. Um, Dylan Movie says, from Frankenstein, I'd either go with the opening scene or the academic presentation scene. Yes, that was a great scene. The academic presentation scene where Dr. Frankenstein is showing how he's able to reanimate a corpse. And the corpse has about as much body as the one that they ask questions to in Return of the Living Dead. Remember when they were asking her, why do you eat brains? And she was like, because um, it numbs the pain of being dead. It was the corpse reminded me of that corpse. I don't know if that was on purpose, but if it was, I liked it. Dell also says that scene and Bring Her Back made me squirm. I'm sure it made everyone squirm. Let's see what our number two pick from what culture is. Rocky Road to Dublin Sinners. Yeah, I would agree with this one because just based on the amount of cosplayers that have taken to Remick, and also I don't know if you've seen some of the dancing at the cosplay conventions of people literally dancing to Rocky Road to Dublin dressed as Remick or other characters from Sinners. I just I had to stop. I know I'm getting a lot of pop-ups because I had to stop my ad blocker for some of the websites articles to pop up. So that's why it's like that. But yeah, I absolutely agree with this with the Rocky Road to Dublin. All right, and number one, the end of Weapons. Yeah, I would have to say that because it did. I did not. I didn't go into this movie expecting to see these kids do what they do at the end to the witch. Like, yeah, yeah, I would say that. What do you guys think? What movies do you think they overlooked as far as like your favorite um horror movie moments of 2025? Let me know in the comments what you thought. All right, let's get into our next one here. And it comes let's see. Fangoria is the next one. Trying to open this. But we'll do it this way. This is written by Angel Melanson, and it's the 25 best horror movies of 2025, according to Fangoria. Vampires, witches, and zombies ruled the screen. And our hearts. Our favorites this year include blockbuster hits like Sinners and indie gems. So I'm not gonna completely read through the article because it might take too long. And like I said, I kind of have to go at 8:45, so we're just gonna scroll through. Um, so they mentioned Sinners, which of course I absolutely agree with. It's absolutely one of the best of the year, if not the decade. I will read a little bit, just as here. No surprise here, Ryan Coogler shows us what a talented filmmaker with an excellent script can do with a proper budget. There are about a million reasons why Sinners took home multiple Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, 7 Golden Globe nominations, and is poised for Oscar noms as well. Fango's BJ Colangelo called this, quote, a sweaty, sexy, blood-soaked success, singing the praises of the incredible ensemble cast, with Michael B. Jordan pulling double duty as twin Smoke and Stack. Absolutely agree. Let's get on to the next one. Oh, this is, they didn't write too much on this, so maybe I can read through it. Weapons. You know how I feel about weapons. You know I love weapons. You know I dressed up like Aunt Gladys, and I think I did a great job. Oops, hitting the mic. As Aunt Gladys. I think she is iconic. I love it so much. Hey, Sandy Absolute is in the house. She says, I enjoyed the music in Sinners, but they could have skimmed that down for more character interactions. Mm-hmm. Della Movie says, not a big fan of him, but the butthead scene and the football machine scene were both excellent. Absolutely. Yeah, I thought people were going too hard on him. It's not the best movie of the year, but it's not as horrible as people say either. It was just all right. Some movies are just okay. They're not amazing. They're not awful. They're just okay. Him was like that. It was just okay. But I think people put too much on it because they mistakenly thought that it was directed by Jordan Peele, which it wasn't. It was produced by Jordan Peele. This has happened before. Back in the 90s, there was a slew of movies that were produced by John Carpenter, and people crapped on them because they were like, "Oh, this is a John Carpenter movie. Why is it like this?" But it wasn't directed by John Carpenter. It was produced, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay for directors to help other directors get on if they have the opportunity to. Okay, let's see what they're saying about weapons. Zach Kreger's follow-up to his hit Barbarian makes him 2 for 2. Aunt Gladys was one of the most popular Halloween costumes this year, proving that weapons broke out of the horror bubble and into the mainstream. Have to agree. The next one, The Ugly Stepsister. Yeah, this is absolutely going on my top 10 list of 2025 as well. Not a lot of people saw it because it was only in limited release. But it's now available on Shudder. So if you missed it, check it out on Shudder. Personally, my biggest surprise of the year last year was Oddity. And I know I'm not alone on this one. Emily Blichfeld won us over with her feature directorial debut, a dark and twisted take on the Cinderella story. But in a climate thick with public domain horror adaptations, I promise you this movie is not what you think. And I agree. This is not Steamboat Willie. This is not there were several Popeye. There's Popeye the Slayer Man and Shiver Me Timbers. There was a bunch of, this is not that. This is much more serious. It does have its funny moments, but it's a more serious take. It's a horror movie. It also is a bit more 2 a.m. Showtime movie. If you remember watching movies on Showtime or the movie channel or Cinemax at 2 a.m. It's that kind of that it felt like that to me, like a 90s movie that you watch at 2 a.m. That it's I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like if you mixed Lady Chatterley's Lover with The Fly. it's the feel that it gave me. Okay, so what do they have next here? Together. This is another one. Together is the one I would put in the same territory as him. It was just okay. Not amazing, not bad, just okay. So they're saying body horror is enjoying a moment, and we are enjoying watching it all unfold. Michael Shank's codependency horror stars real-life couple Alison Brie and Dave Frankel, and uses body horror as a vehicle to illustrate their relationship. Again, it's just okay. Bring Her Back. Another one, better than okay, but not amazing. I would say, like, if I was giving this a grade, I'd be like A minus, maybe a B plus. So they're saying a feel-good movie this is not, but I wouldn't expect less from the Filippo brothers in their follow-up to mega hit Talk to Me. The duo takes us to even darker places in their sophomore feature, a meditation on grief and the links one might go to get something back, while failing to realize their own metamorphosis into a monster. I think part of the reasons why I feel like this was just okay is I feel like it retreaded material that they've already talked about. Um, Talk to Me was also about grief and of losing a loved one. Talk to Me was about mostly a girl trying to cope with the loss of her mother. Bring Her Back is more a mother trying to cope with the loss of their child. Yeah, been there, done that. Let's do something else. What's next? 28 years later. Um, this one is more flash than substance for me. Great looking zombies, which is like saying beautiful gowns. But the story, man. The movie for me, man. I was bored through most of it, which is crazy. You should never be bored in a zombie movie, especially not a rage virus zombie movie. But they're saying in the era of often ill-advised prequels, requels, and legacy sequels, eyebrows were raised when Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later was first announced. How exactly do you follow up what is arguably the defining zombie movie of the modern era, especially one that spawned an entire subgenre of 28 Days Later's clones? The answer is simple. Um, this is true. 28 Days Later did revitalize. I would say revitalize because I feel like the first fast zombies that I ever saw was in Return of the Living Dead. And then we also had the crazies, which those people weren't necessarily zombies, but the crazies act similar to how Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later acts. So I'm not going to give him the um, accolades of being the first fast zombie person. He wasn't, but I will give him the accolades of revitalizing that as a style of zombie film. But I feel like I feel like I'm being like Kanye, where I'm gonna let you finish. But where 28 Days Later revitalized the fast rage zombie film, Train to Busan did a better job at taking that and running with it than 28 Years Later did. 28 Years Later should have been um more like that, but it didn't. I didn't care about this family at all. Whereas in Train to Busan, that I cared about that family. I don't care about this family, and that has to do with either writing or lack of character development. It just didn't hit me in the feels the way Train to Busan hit me in the feels, and they had a literal baby with them, and I still didn't. I didn't feel the things I was supposed to feel. Okay, in the chat, Dell on Movie says Popeye the Slayer Man was a dumb fun slasher, better than those Winnie the Pooh horror flicks, in my opinion. Big Chungus says I thought Bring Her Back and Talk to Me, were both good. Mm-hmm. Della Movie says I loved Bring Her Back, but I'm kind of a sucker for grief horror. Also, you might also really love not the Babadook. Well, yeah, the Babadook as well. I would say the Babadook as well is a grief horror movie. But yeah, I would say that because of her husband passing away. Big Chungus says 28 Years Later was okay, but nothing special. Kind of feel the same way about the Skull Tower, even though I haven't watched it yet. Chasflick says Train to Busan is very emotional zombie movie. Exactly. And Dell says Train to Busan was a zombie film with lots of heart. Exactly. And I felt like 28 Years Later was kind of going for the same thing with this family, but somehow they missed the mark on trying to get you to engage with the family dynamic. Tony Man says, I haven't really watched a movie that scared me in a long, long time. Yeah, I know. All right, what else is on there? Heart Eyes. Heart Eyes grew on me. The first time watching it, I didn't feel like the comedy landed for me at all. And I just thought it was kind of mediocre. I rewatched it, with my sister and with Tony Man, and it the pacing is pretty good. And I had to remind myself it's a slasher movie. We're not expecting slasher movies to change the world. We want to see some good kills. And I would say Hard Eyes did have some really good kills in it. They're saying I'm a massive fan of horror comedy and rom-coms too. I think that's also part of my problem. I'm not a huge fan of rom-coms. I could probably count the amount of rom-coms I like on one hand. And there's stuff like Coming to America. That's a rom-com that I like. The Waterboy, technically a rom-com in a way, and I like that one. But I'm usually not a big fan of romantic comedies. Now where was I? With multi-hyphenate comedian director Chainsaw Awards host Josh Rubin at the helm and Chris Landon from Happy Death Day, Michael Kennedy from Freaky, and Philip Murphy from Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard writing the script, this felt like a meet cute made for me. I also don't love the mask. It was just okay. The Monkey is another one. I know a lot of people love this movie. I probably would never rewatch this movie. I saw The Monkey. It was okay. Like I said earlier in the broadcast, I really liked the swimming pool scene, but for me, it's not so great. It's just okay. And I feel that about all Oz Perkins movies so far. He has been the most overrated director I've seen. I didn't love I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in a Basement or whatever that movie was. Um what's the Nicolas Cage movie that it was creepy for the first 30 minutes and then they put Nicolas Cage in it. Long Legs. Long Legs. Oh, what a missed opportunity. Solid first 30 minutes. Very suspenseful, creepy. And then you put Nicolas Cage acting weird in it and it just blew all of the tension out of the water and it just became a joke. And now we have The Monkey and again, mediocre. Oz Perkins, like you are, I don't blame you for trying to run, rough shot on your daddy's name. Like who wouldn't, who wouldn't? But these movies are just so C grade. They're not horrible. I would never say you're horrible. You're not good at what you do, but they're just mediocre. They're just all right. All right, so they're saying cementing himself as the hardest working man in horror, Oz Perkins came straight out of Longlegs Gate with not one but two new movies in 2025. The first of which was the splat stick Stephen King adaptation, The Monkey. All right, what else is on here? Clown in a Cornfield. Clown in a Cornfield was just okay. I do like some of the storytelling in Clown in a Cornfield. The kills were all right. The kills were all right for this slasher movie. It was just okay. There's another one. Not amazing, not terrible, just okay. They're saying another horror comedy has entered the ring. Tucker and Dale versus Evil director Eli Craig adapts Adam Cesare's hit novel for the big screen, injecting it with a horror comedy twist. Okay, BC said, I like Long Legs. And Della Movie says, thank you. You're the first person I've heard that agrees with me on Long Legs, and for the same reason. Yes, it's just, I don't know what happened. You had a good thing, and then I don't know what you did. Of course, Frankenstein. I think most people will agree that this was it's Del Toro. Guillermo's been solid. This Fangoria says not everyone was wild about Guillermo del Toro's take on Shelley's Monster, but that's bound to happen when adapting a classic. I'm sure it sure worked its magic on me, achingly gorgeous as expected. Del Toro honed in all the reasons this story has always spoken to me. He's waited his whole life to make this film, and it shows. Anyone else? Companion. I don't know why is Companion so high on all these lists. Am I the only one that's just like it was all right? It was just all right. Why is it on a best of list? I guess, In a year where AI continues to threaten every artistic outlet we have as humans, former Blue Mountain State writer Drew Hancock took it upon himself to create a film that questions what exactly makes us human and what we'll do to preserve that humanity, all told from the perspective of a robot. All right. Dangerous Animals. I did not see this one because it didn't strike me as interesting enough for me to make time to see it, but they've put it on their best of. If you guys have seen Dangerous Animals in the comments, let me know what you thought of it. They say 2025 ushered in something of a creature feature renaissance with Morihito Inoue's hilarious horror comedy Hot Spring Shark Attack and Justin Long starring Coyotes and Fantastic Fest opener Primate, to name a few, which I will be going to see tomorrow night. Tony Man and I are going to go see Primate. Tony Man says Dangerous Animals sucked ass. BC says it's because we have good taste. Joking. Dead Mail. I have not seen Dead Mail. They're saying for those of you whose parents never warned you about talking to strangers growing up, just pop dead male on, and that'll do the trick. This lean, mean horror film centered around a man who ends up kidnapped just because he disagreed about synthesizers will absolutely chill you to the bone and make you think twice about talking to that random guy in the post office. Now, what's funny about this? It says that this person or this character ended up kidnapped because he disagreed about synthesizers. Remind me of that guy that was on TikTok. There was a lady, it was a black lady. She was on TikTok. I don't remember what she was talking about, but this white dude decided to be racist in her comments, and she found out where he worked at and pulled up to his job, and she was like, "You see how easy it was for me to find you?" And she made him read a letter of apology online, or else she was going to tell his wife about his Grinder account. And I was like, wow. That's amazing. Okay. Best wishes to all. I did see this. This was on Shutter, by the way. And they say, leave it to Japan to deliver one of the most bizarre and unsettling movies of 2025 with Yuta Shimotsu's Best Wishes to All. While the psychological horror has been making the festival rounds for a while, it wasn't until this year that audiences wide got to see Shimotsu's what the fuck tinged take on fake social niceties when it hit Shutter in the summer. I wouldn't consider this one of the best of the year, though. This is another one, it was just okay. Um, I don't think it was bad, I don't think it was good, it was just okay. I wouldn't put it on my best of, but you guys let me know in the comments if you've seen Best Wishes to All and how you felt about it. Did it make your top 10 list or top 25 list in this case? Queens of the Dead, also on my watch list. I gotta watch it this weekend. I have not seen Queens of the Dead yet. It's on Shutter now. So I definitely check it out. This is George Romero's daughter's movie. So they've said, I've written at length about why Tina Romero's horror comedy is one of the most important movies I saw this year. And as we approach the last day of 2025, that sentiment remains true. Disco drag queens and zombies in Brooklyn. Queens of the Dead has all the high camp you'd expect from such a premise, while also delivering far more heart than you could ever anticipate. Unlikely anti-heroes banding together in ways both relatable, hilarious, and heartwarming. Funny enough, it shines like a glowing beacon of hope in a time that has more than its fair share of darkness. I hope so. I want to pair it with, there's another movie that is on Tubi that is it's about these drag queens that are fighting vampires, I believe, at a bar. I cannot recall the name of that movie, but I want to pair that with Queens of the Dead. I would love to do that. Okay, The Long Walk. Absolutely. This is a movie I really didn't understand how they were going to make it a film out of this story of these guys walking, these young teenage boys walking in a dystopian future. But they pulled it off. They really pulled it off. And it's very dialogue heavy. And these young actors, they did an amazing job. If they're not nominated for acting awards, I know something's up because this was great. Okay, 2025 was truly a banner year for Stephen King on screen with Mike Flanagan's existential delight, The Life of Chuck, Edgar Wright's dystopian actioner, The Running Man, and most bleak of them all, Francis Lawrence's no holds barred take on The Long Walk. I have not seen the new Running Man, and I had not seen The Life of Chuck, but I have seen The Long Walk, and I was so pleasantly surprised at how good this movie is. And the ending, I love the ending. Darth Revenant says, Queen of Snooze, Slay on Tubi was better. That's the name of the movie I'm talking about, Slay. That's the one with the drag queens fighting the vampires. So Darth says the Queen of the Dead is boring. Oh, I hate to hear that. Big Chungus says, I want to see Primate. Yes. Okay, do we have any others? Final Destination Bloodlines is on the list. Yeah, it was a fun movie. I absolutely enjoyed watching Final Destination Bloodlines. They are saying in 2011, Final Destination 5 upended Death Design in such paradigm twisting fashion that it effectively shut down the franchise for well over a decade. Fans couldn't even complain. The ending was so marvelously clever and unexpected, creating a tidy, closed loop that filmmakers seemed loath to reopen without careful consideration. Is there? Oh, Dust Bunny. I have not seen this one. It is on my watch list. I'm. I guess I'm waiting for it to hit streaming. It might be on Amazon Prime by now, but I'm hoping I can get this article in time for me to go because I'm gonna have to split the show in half because I'm not gonna be able to finish all the news stories. So on Dust Bunny, it says after 3 decades of making some of genre fans' favorite television Star Trek, Dead Like Me, Wonder Falls, Pushing Daisies, Hannibal, and more, writer-director Brian Fuller unleashes his feature film debut this month. Dust Bunny is a lush, hyper-saturated, deliciously dark fairy tale, a gateway horror film for kids, and a heartstring-strumming nostalgia trip for adults. All right, what's next? Bone Lake. I did see Bone Lake. I was expecting more than what I got from it. Bone Lake is it's advertised as being this raunchy R-rated slasher type movie, but it's hard to make a slasher movie with only 4 characters in it. It needed more characters and it needed to be raunchier. I grew up, on late 70s, 80s, 90s raunchiness. This was nowhere near where it needed to be if you were going to do like it's not even as raunchy as a regular Friday the 13th movie. Like no. So they're saying Mercedes Bryce Morgan's Bone Lake is a carnally charged destination rom-com for sickos, but it could also be the groundbreaking answer to couples therapy, a weekend away at an escape room run by maniacs. The opening sequence lands somewhere between Cannibal Holocaust. No, it does not. Is it crack you're smoking? There's nothing about the opening of this movie that would ever compare to What? I'm scrolling past these lies. What's next? Silent Night, Deadly Night. Okay. Fun movie. Lots of fun. Especially the, how do I say? The Yahtzee kill scene. The Yahtzee with an N. The kill scene. That was a lot of fun. Filmmaker Mike P. Nelson didn't need to do all this. A remake of the infamous 1980 slasher guaranteed a certain number of asses in seats, but Nelson's clever update comes with a very funny and unexpected reason to have us on Billy's axe-wielding side. And in a meta twist, I sure didn't see coming, the film seems to have replicated the controversy of the original, but in a way that has its MAGA decriers telling on themselves, according to Phil Noble Jr. BC says Lady Shasha said today, surprise word, Bone Lake. All right, let's see. Chain Reactions. I have not seen Chain Reactions yet. Which I do know is a documentary, and I really like documentaries, but hopefully, I think it might be on Shudder. I'll have to check. I sat down to this film wondering what on earth was left to be said about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To my delight, Alexandra O. Phillips' film is no making of rehash, but instead turns its gaze on the audience members of Tobe Hooper's classic in pursuit of something deeper, which it finds. So I'll take their word for it until I watch it. What else here? The Shrouds. I did not see The Shrouds. I've heard mixed reviews of The Shrouds. Some positive, some negative. This year, the great David Cronenberg heard there was a body horror renaissance and had to come and show the kids how it's done. But in The Shrouds, the body horror doesn't mean fear of a human body sprouting slimy alien appendages, and instead means the anxious acceptance of inevitability that a human body that will get sick, age, and eventually die. Interesting. David Cronenberg. Okay, I'm making sure it's David and not his son. Yeah, I would definitely put this on my watch list just for Cronenberg alone. It Ends. I have not heard much about It Ends. Della Movie says, I haven't seen most of these Fangoria picks. That watch list keeps getting longer. Yeah, it's supposed to be 25. It feels like it's 50. So And it ends, says, here is a film that on paper sounds like a recipe for should have been a short. First time filmmaker tedium. A group of friends in a car slowly realize the road they're on isn't going anywhere and never ends. Every time they stop the car, crazed strangers descend on the vehicle trying to get inside. And so they drive and drive and drive. Eventually they're gonna run out of gas though. So what's the but writer director Alex Ulam surprises us with nuance, emotion, and craft, turning a simple premise into something existentially terrifying and ultimately beautiful. This is another one like The Long Walk. I didn't see how The Long Walk would work. This is another one of those that it could be one of those deals where I don't see how it could work, but it's possible it could work. The Wailing, not to be confused with the Korean movie The Wailing. Um, Here they're describing this as one of the best international horror films of 2025, snuck in under the wire this December, arriving in North America more than a year after its domestic release. A Spanish, Argentine, French co-production, director Pedro Martin Caleros, The Wailing is a creeping slow burn about three women separated by place and time and the unseen entity that connects them. Sounds interesting. I might check it out. We still have more? Good Boy. Another one. Okay. This is more about concept and how good the movie is. In concept, very interesting movie. But I probably would never rewatch it. It's just okay. I actually liked when we were doing a ghost story with a different concept, I kind of liked The Presence better than this. And The Presence was from the perspective of the ghost. I enjoyed that one a lot better than Good Boy. So they're saying, apologies, but I'm biased here. I believe that I experienced the only 40x screening of Good Boy. The movie streamed on Shudder. My living room lights were off, and I sat on my couch for the entirety and for the entire 73-minute runtime clutching my dog named Indiana, just like the film's protagonist. Okay. Okay, and then they go on to say, as we bid 2025 farewell, we hope you'll spend some time with the above movies that may have slipped under your radar and revisit your favorites. Speaking of that, stay tuned for our most loved underrated horror films of the year, and of course, all the new horror movies we are most looking forward to in 2026. Cheers. And with that, I have got to get out of here because it is now 8:46. What I'll have to do is do the other half of this. Let's make a date for Friday. Let's do the second half of this video on Friday. I unfortunately can't do it tomorrow because we've got to prepare for tomorrow's podcast with those other three movies, which let me remind you guys what those are. I almost got the bouncing ball of doom for a hot second there. Come on, computer. Yes, you can do it. All right. So tomorrow we will be back here, Tony Man and I. We're going to be talking about Monkey Shines, Shakma, and Primate, which we'll be watching all three tomorrow. If you guys had not seen a couple drops I did earlier this week, we talked about how Mikey and Adopted are the same movie. It's a clip from what we watched last weekend. We also talked about Ray J's Scooty Bikes and why he isn't in Tubi movies. He should be. And in case you missed it, in time for next week's drop of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, I did talk about 28 Years Later. I did a pretty extensive, in my opinion, review with some spoilers at the end about 28 Years Later. So definitely check that out. With that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys have a good night. I will see you on Friday. I'm not sure the time frame. Stay looking at the community posts so you know when I'm going to pop back up so we can finish our best and worst of 2025. Did I finish all the... I might have inadvertently done all the best ofs so that when I come back on Friday, it might be all just worst ofs. Let me see. Get out of here. Did I do all the best ofs? I did the best of the movies, but I didn't do TV. So there's one best of TV, and then the rest is all going to be kind of worst ofs. But you guys have a good night. Thank you for rocking with me. Let me get out of here. Chaz says, good night. Doc Kaiju says, Shakma has Dungeons and Dragons names. Oh, cool, cool, cool. Doc Kaiju says, I had a great time tonight. Have a good night and be well, everyone. Same to you. And Big Chunga says, I think I would skip about 80% of these Fangoria picks. Sat on my couch. Yeah, I'm glad I saw as many horror movies as I saw this year. But with that, let me get the heck out of here. You guys have a good night, and thank you again for coming through. Do not forget to thumbs this video up. Even if you're watching the replay, give me a thumbs up, give me a comment so I know that you passed by. Again, let me know what your top 10 favorite horror movies and horror movie moments, same thing with science fiction and fantasy, in the comments of the video. And I will see you next time. Have a good night.